What's your name, girl?
My name?
Fuck. Get your ass out of here, okay? Get up.
Get off my lawn.
The film commences by portraying a funeral service taking place in a church setting. A gentleman offers his condolences to another individual, Walt Kowalski, who is grieving the loss of his wife, Dorothy. Walt, a military veteran, shared his life with Dorothy and their two children, Mitch and Andy. Additionally, they were grandparents to one granddaughter and three grandsons. In the midst of the funeral proceedings, Walt's granddaughter, present at the event, drew attention with her attire, a miniskirt and a revealing shirt, causing Walt some irritation. Despite this, Walt's sorrow was evident as he grappled with the profound loss of his wife, the one person who truly understood him. The funeral of Dorothy gathered a sizable crowd of her closest relatives. Following the church ceremony, the gathering continued with a banquet hosted at Walt's residence. Amidst the lively atmosphere in Walt's house, he opted for solitude. Seeking solace, he retreated to his car garage, where he stumbled upon his granddaughter engaged in smoking. Within the confines of the garage rested a 1972 Ford Gran Torino. Observing the array of cars in Walt's collection, his granddaughter inquired about his intentions for the vehicles after his passing. Rather than responding, Walt chose to remain silent and walked away without addressing her question. Upon Walt's return home, a young priest approached him, acknowledging the closeness he shared with Dorothy. The late Dorothy had entrusted a message to the priest, urging him to watch over Walt after her demise and encouraging Walt to make a confession he had yet to divulge. Resistant to confessing in the presence of someone younger, Walt expressed his reluctance. Simultaneously, residing next door to Walt were Asian residents of Chinese descent with the surname Meng. Within this group, a young man named Tóugh faced disapproval from his family due to his unwavering obedience to his elder brother's commands. External appearances suggested Walt's discontent with the Chinese neighbors, leading him to question the reasons behind their relocation to his neighborhood. The subsequent day unfolded with Tóugh strolling alone through the neighborhood, reading a book. Unaware of his surroundings, he found himself trailed by a car carrying a cohort of American gangsters who subjected him to harassment and verbal abuse. Simultaneously, from the opposite direction, another car emerged, housing gang members from an Asian faction, including a cousin of Tóugh. An inexplicable altercation ensued between the American and Asian gangs until a member of the American group brandished a firearm, prompting one of the Asian gangsters named Smokey to reveal an Uzi-type weapon. Confronted with Smokey's Uzi, the American gangsters opted to withdraw and departed from the scene. Following their departure, the Asian gangsters approached Tóugh, and a member named Spider insisted that he join their ranks. However, Tóugh displayed a lack of interest in joining, as he harbored a distaste for violence and sought to avoid trouble. The Asian gangsters reluctantly left Tóugh to continue his journey. Unexpectedly, Spider and his companions approached Tóugh's residence while he was engaged in gardening in his yard. Tóugh's sister, Sue, was present on the house terrace at that moment. The group of Asian gangsters converged on Tóugh, initiating a persistent effort to coerce him into joining their ranks. Sensing the situation, Sue opted to retreat into the house. Compelled by their persistence, Tóugh reluctantly acquiesced and agreed to become part of the gang. Tóugh's initiation into the group involved a task, stealing his neighbor Walt's Gran Torino car. As night fell, Tóugh undertook the mission to pilfer Walt's car. However, Walt, seemingly aware of the intrusion, sensed someone attempting to access his garage. Armed with a rifle, Walt proceeded towards the garage, prepared to confront and repel the would-be thief. Terrified by Walt's intimidating stance, Tóugh hastily fled from Walt's residence. Inside the dimly lit garage, Walt struggled to discern the identity of the potential car thief. Outside Walt's home, the gang of gangsters awaited Tóugh's return. Meanwhile, Walt took it upon himself to repair the garage, aiming to prevent any recurrence of such incidents. The next day, Walt's eldest son reached out, but rather than inquiring about his well-being, he sought information about his late mother's jewelry, leaving Walt vexed enough to abruptly end the call. Seeking solace, Walt settled in front of his house, gazing contemplatively at the Gran Torino parked in his driveway. As night fell, Spider and his associates revisited Tóugh's residence, this time adopting a more forceful approach. They aggressively coerced Tóugh, who was seated in his yard, prompting the rest of the Tóugh family to emerge from the house in an attempt to intervene. The escalating conflict spilled into Walt's yard, catching his attention. Prepared for confrontation, Walt brandished his gun as the tumultuous situation unfolded in his vicinity. The American gangster faction opted to withdraw and vacate the premises. Grateful for Walt's role in dispelling the gangsters, the Tóugh family expressed their thanks. However, Walt bluntly instructed them to steer clear of his house area. To his surprise the next day, Walt discovered a diverse array of food and gifts scattered across his yard. It turned out the Tóugh family was expressing gratitude for Walt's intervention, although Walt, known for not extending help, was merely motivated by a desire to maintain the tranquility of his yard. Shortly afterward, Tóugh, accompanied by his mother, approached Walt to formally apologize for the attempted car theft. Walt's response carried a stern warning, advising Tóugh against repeating such mistakes and emphasizing that any future transgressions might lead to severe consequences. Later that afternoon, Sue strolled to the record store with her friend. Along their route, they encountered a group of troublemakers who began harassing them. Unfazed by their antics, Sue's fearless demeanor seemed to escalate the situation. Unexpectedly, Walt arrived in his Gran Torino, subtly suggesting a concealed weapon. This ploy made the delinquents underestimate him, but Walt, catching them off guard, revealed a real firearm from his pocket. Subsequently, Walt instructed Sue to join him in his car, and during their journey, they engaged in light-hearted conversation. Walt displayed an unusually friendly demeanor, and Sue reciprocated positively to his banter. A few days later, Walt appeared at ease in front of his house when he witnessed his elderly front neighbor accidentally dropping groceries from her car trunk. Nearby youths passed by, opting to mock rather than assist the woman. Initially poised to intervene, Walt observed Tóugh swiftly rushing to aid the elderly woman, assisting her in carrying the items into her house. Shortly afterward, Sue approached Walt, extending an invitation to a barbecue at their residence. Glancing at his depleted beer supply, Walt accepted the invitation, hopeful for a replenishment from Sue's house. Upon Walt's arrival, Sue's family warmly greeted him, with the exception of Sue's grandmother, who remained distant. Within the family, a perceptive individual, a healer, kept a watchful eye on Walt. Delving into Walt's murky past, the healer asserted that serious mistakes burdened Walt, causing ongoing distress. Confronted by this revelation, Walt sought a moment of solitude. After a brief period alone, he coughed and decided to excuse himself, heading to the restroom. While in the restroom, Walt became aware of blood in his cough, indicating an underlying health issue. Upon opening the door, he encountered Sue inquiring about his well-being. Walt, however, dismissed his health concerns, insisting that he was fine. As he prepared to depart, Sue's mother conveyed Tóugh's intention to make amends for the attempted car theft by offering money or services to Walt. Sue's family emphasized the importance of accepting this gesture, expressing that refusal would be perceived as an insult. Yielding to their insistence, Walt agreed to Tóugh's proposal and enlisted his help the following day. Back at home, Walt's bouts of coughing, now accompanied by blood, prompted him to seek medical attention. The doctor's diagnosis revealed a chronic ailment, casting a shadow over Walt's life expectancy. Faced with this grim reality, Walt endeavored to mend his strained relationship with his children, reaching out individually. However, his sincere efforts were met with indifference, as his children claimed to be too occupied. The subsequent day, Walt engaged Tóugh in various tasks, spanning from fixing roofs and uprooting trees to car cleaning and heavy lifting, even extending to house painting. Tóugh diligently performed these chores, driven by a desire to distance himself from the Asian gangsters who frequented the area. While observing Tóugh's efforts, Walt discerned that he was a reserved individual with low self-esteem. This revelation deeply touches Walt, prompting him to embark on transforming Tóugh into a resilient young man. Tóugh receives an invitation to work at one of Walt's friend Tim Kennedy's factories. Tim welcomes Tóugh as an employee and assures him of finding a suitable position within the factory. After a few days, Tóugh officially joins the workforce at Tim's factory. Returning home from work, Tóugh disembarks from the bus only to be accosted by the Asian gangsters who had previously harassed him. The gang proceeds to assault Tóugh, inflicting pain by poking a cigarette into his cheek. Following the brutal attack, Tóugh continues his journey home empty-handed, as the gangsters had damaged all his factory tools. Along the way, Walt encounters Tóugh, realizing that he has fallen victim to gang violence. In response, Walt pays a visit to Spider's headquarters but finds only Smokey. Walt takes matters into his own hands, delivering a severe beating to Smokey and cautioning him against further disturbing Tóugh if he values peace. On another night, Walt is found in his living room when Spider's group passes by Tóugh's house, firing shots as a warning. Concerned, Walt rushes to check on his neighbor. Fortunately, Tóugh escaped with just a scratch on his neck, and none of his other family members sustained injuries. Tóugh, however, recalled Sue being at her friend's house. Anxiously reaching out, he discovered that Sue had left about an hour ago. Fearful for her safety, they waited apprehensively for Sue's return, concerned that the gang might have harmed her. Moments later, they heard Sue's agonized voice from outside the house. Rushing to her side, they found Sue battered all over her body, a victim of the gangsters. This tragic incident left her family and Walt profoundly saddened and devastated. Overwhelmed by his emotions, Walt excused himself to return home, where he channeled his turmoil by destructively venting his feelings. After finding solace in this release, he sought absolution from the priest. During this confession, Walt revealed a haunting truth: he had killed hundreds of innocent people during the Korean War. Walt then sought permission to embark on a new mission, driven by humanitarian motives, to safeguard Tóugh and Sue's family. With Tóugh by his side, Walt prepared his long-owned rifle for the impending action. Tóugh, fueled by a desire for vengeance against Smokey and his associates for what they did to his sister, eagerly joined Walt. In the basement, Walt bestowed upon Tóugh a silver star, acknowledging the gravity of the night's impending actions, recognizing that survival was not guaranteed. The silver star served as a symbol of appreciation for Tóugh's bravery in undertaking the impending action. However, Walt took an unexpected turn by locking Tóugh in the basement, revealing his solo plan for revenge. Determined to spare others from involvement, Walt left Tóugh furious and powerless, desperately shouting for Walt to open the door. Prior to his solitary mission, Walt entrusted his dog to Tóugh's grandma. He then contacted Sue, disclosing the location of the locked basement, expressing his desire for a more peaceful life for Tóugh and Sue's families, free from gangster disruptions. That fateful night, Walt approached the gangster headquarters, where they awaited him with weapons in hand. In a bold display, Walt motioned to shoot them individually using his bare hands. Feigning the retrieval of a gun from his pocket, he instead pulled out a cigarette, catching the gangsters off guard. Walt, seemingly about to draw a gun, queried if they had matches, leaving the gangsters perplexed. In a swift motion, he placed his hands back in his pockets, prompting the gangsters to open fire, thinking he would pull out a weapon. Tragically, Walt succumbed to the barrage of bullets, with dozens piercing his body. The neighbors witnessed this harrowing incident, and soon after, the police arrived to apprehend the gangsters on charges of shooting an unarmed man. Contrary to seeking revenge, Walt's sacrifice unfolded as he realized his life's brevity. Choosing to die as a hero, he prioritized the safety of the Tóugh and Sue families, leaving behind a poignant legacy. Several days post Walt's burial, municipal authorities organized an estate distribution ceremony. During this occasion, it came to light that Walt, honoring his late wife's wish, bequeathed his house to the church. As for Walt's cherished Gran Torino car, it was officially passed on to Tóugh, the sole companion who stood by Walt until his final days. Subsequently, a scene unfolds with Tóugh behind the wheel of the Gran Torino, marking the conclusion of the film. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching and see you again soon. Take care.